Sadeko. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we continue to read from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 25, Text 9. Atra te kathayisye mam
Trate kathayeshe mam
itihasam puratanam
itihasam puratanam
Puranjasya charitam
Purañjanasya charitam
Nibodha gadato mama.
Nabodha kadato mama.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. So, Narad Muni, he's gone to King Prachina Barishad. His sons, the Prachetas, are doing so much devotional service. They're inside the lake, they're chanting the song, the prayers given to them by Lord Shiva. And Prachina Bari, he was busy just doing the ritualistic sacrifices for going up to heavenly planets. And taking compassion on him, Narad Muni has come to him. And Prachina Bari is asking him, what's the goal of human life? Prachina Bari is asking to Narad Muni. So Narad Muni is saying, in this connection, I wish to narrate an old history connected with the character of a king called Purañjana. Please try to hear me with great attention. The great sage Narad Muni turned toward another topic, the history of King Purañjana. This is nothing but the history of King Prachina Barishad, told in a different way. In other words, this is an allegorical presentation. So Narad Muni is telling him a story, but the story he's saying is of King Puranjan, but actually it is the life of Prachina Barishad. So the word Puranjana means one who enjoys in a body. This is clearly explained in the next few chapters. Because a person entangled in material activities wants to hear stories of material activities, Narad Muni turned to the topics of King Puranjan, who is none other than King Prachina Barishad. Narad Muni did not directly deprecate the value of performing sacrifices in which animals are sacrificed. Lord Buddha, however, directly rejected all animal sacrifice. So Narad Muni wants to wake up King Prachina Barishad, but he understands the psychology of Prachina Barishad, that he's, in too much in that mood, is not yet ready to immediately hear of the transcendental knowledge. So he's telling him a story. And in that story, then he's going to explain to him by telling him this story. So Lord Buddha, he openly declared, don't follow the Vedas because there is a section in the Vedas which deals with animal sacrifices. Narad Muni did not do that. Narad Muni is follower of the Vedas, he is a Vaishnava. So Srila Jayadev Goswami has stated in Indasi Yagya Vider, Aha Shruti Jatam. The word Shruti Jatam indicates that in the Vedas, animal sacrifice is recommended. But Lord Buddha directly denied Vedic authority in order to stop animal sacrifice. Consequently, Lord Buddha is not accepted by the followers of the Vedas. Because he does not accept the authority of the Vedas, Lord Buddha is depicted as an agnostic or atheist. But we have to understand who is Lord Buddha. Lord Buddha is an incarnation of Krishna. He came. Why? Because people were misusing the Vedas and killing animals in the name of performing sacrifices. There were wholesale slaughter of animals going on in the name of Vedas. And that's the reason he said, okay, stop. Don't follow this. It was, a need of the moment. Whenever Krishna comes, or his incarnations, his expansions, or his devotees, they give the message which is suitable for time, place, and circumstance. as much as the audience will be able to understand. So the great sage Narad cannot decry the authority of the Vedas, but he wanted to indicate to King Prachinabarishad that the path of Karmakand is very difficult and risky. This animal sacrifices, performing this. It's because one may go to the heavenly planet, but one will again have to come back to the earth planet once the good karma is finished. Foolish persons accept the difficult part of karmakand for the sake of sense enjoyment, and those who are too much attached to sense enjoyment are called mudas, rascals. It is very difficult for a muda to understand the ultimate goal of life. In the propagation of the Krishna consciousness movement, we actually see that many people are not attracted because they are mudas engaged in fruitive activity. It is said, Upadesho hi murkhanam prakopaya na shantaye. If good instructions are given to a foolish rascal, he simply becomes angry and turns against the instructions instead of taking advantage of them. Because Narad Muni knew this very well, he indirectly instructed the king by giving him the history of his entire life. So Narad Muni, we can see he's expert, He's not immediately going and telling philosophy to King Prachinabarishad. He's not saying, hey, what are you doing? You're wasting your time. We do that sometimes and then we get into problems because people will get offended. So we shouldn't directly instruct anyone. Well, if somebody is asking, like Krishna, Arjuna also, Krishna does not speak to him the instruction of Bhagavad Gita until and unless Arjuna asks him, you kindly instruct me. He says, I'm your disciple. Arjuna accepts that he wants to hear transcendental knowledge from Krishna, and then Krishna gives him the transcendental knowledge. So here, although Prachina Barishad has asked Narad Muni, tell me what's this goal of life, but Narad Muni understands the position of Prachina Barishad. So he's not directly giving him transcendental knowledge, but he's telling him his own life story, but as an allegory, saying that there is another king called Purañjana. So because Narad Muni knew this very well, in order to wear a gold or diamond nose pin or earring, one has to pierce the ear or nose. Such pain endured for the sake of sense gratification is endured on the path of karmakand, the path of fruitive activity. If one wishes to enjoy something in the future, he has to endure trouble in the present. If one wants to become a millionaire in the future and enjoy his riches, he has to work very hard at the present moment in order to accumulate money. This is karma kandiya. Those who are too much attached to such a path undergo the risk anyway. Narad Muni wanted to show King Prachina Barishad how one undergoes great troubles and miseries in order to engage in fruitive activity. We take a lot of trouble to enjoy, to do certain activities because we want to get the result of that activity. I will do this and I will get this. And so we do too much endeavor. It's not that we have to become lazy and not do anything. Krishna says, do your duty. But there is a difference between doing the work and over endeavoring. So the scriptures are telling us not to over endeavor. A person who is very much attached to material activity is called Vishayi. A Vishayi is an enjoyer of Vishaya, which means eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Narad Muni is indirectly indicating, through the story of King Purañjana, that eating, sleeping, mating, and defending are troublesome and risky. So then one may say, oh, then I should not eat, I should not sleep, no mate, no defend. No, we have to balance. Krishna says, don't eat too much, don't eat too little, don't sleep too much, don't sleep too little. We balance it. We do our duties and also we do our duties for the satisfaction of Krishna. And at the same time, we hear from Bhagavad Gita, from Bhagavatam, We chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. The words Itihasam, history, and Puratanam, old, indicate that although a living entity lives within the material body, the history of the living entity within the material body is very old. In this regard, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has sung Anadi Karma Phale Padi Baba Arnava Jale Taribare Na Dekhi Upay. Due to my past fruitive activities, I have fallen into the water of material existence, and I cannot find any way to get out of it. We can't remember when we came inside a material body. And then, since we have been changing one body to another, going from one species to another. And it's happened a long, long time ago. That's why it's called eternal. Since time immemorial, we are inside a material body. So every living entity is suffering in this material existence from past activities. Therefore, everyone has a very old history. Foolish material scientists have manufactured their own theories of evolution, which are simply concerned with the material body. But actually, this is not the real evolution. The real evolution is the history of the living entity, who's Purañjana, living within the body. Sri Narad Muni will explain this evolutionary theory in a different way for the understanding of sane persons. Is it okay? Yeah, any comments, question? It's okay. Right. So going on. Asit Puranjano Nama
Asit Purañjano Nama
Raja Rajan Prahakshrava
Raja Rajan Brahachtrava
Tasya Vigyata Namasit
Tasya Vigyata Namasit
Sakha Vigyata Chestita.
Sakha Vigyata Cheshita.
My dear king, once in the past lived a king named Puranjana who was celebrated for his great activities. He had a friend named Avigyata, the unknown one. No one could understand the activities of Avigyata. Every living entity is Puranjana. The word Puram means within this body, within this form, and Jana means living entity. Thus, everyone is Puranjana. Every living entity is supposed to be the king of his body because the living entity is given full freedom to use his body as he likes. He usually engages his body for sense gratification because one who is in the bodily conception of life feels that the ultimate goal of life is to serve the senses. So, Puranjana, we each of us are Puranjana. We are inside this body, we are the living entity, and we have a free will of how we want to act. So usually we are always acting that I want to enjoy the body. Why? Because we think we are the body. We are completely forgotten that we are not the body, but spirit souls. So this is okay. One who has no inner knowledge or who does not know that he's actually the spirit soul living within the body, who is simply enamored by the dictation of the senses, is called a materialist. A materialistic person interested in sense gratification can be called a Puranjana because such a materialistic person utilizes his senses according to his whims. He may also be called a king. An irresponsible king takes the royal position to be his personal property and misuses his treasury for sense gratification. So, sometimes a king may misuse the funds and think, okay, everything is for me. So similarly, we are doing that. We misuse the body. We think it is for our sense gratification. We don't understand that this body is given to us actually to get out of the material world. So the word Braha Shrava is also significant. The word Shrava means fame. The living entity is famous from ancient times, for as stated in Bhagavad Gita 2.20, na jayate mriyate va. The living entity is never born and never dies. So we can see, we are eternal. Krishna is saying the soul is eternal. When we are mentioning living entity, we are referring to the soul, not to the body. The body is always dead. We think the body is living because of the presence of the soul. But the body is always dead. So because he is eternal, his activities are eternal, although they are performed in different types of bodies. So the soul, Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita, soul never dies. He is eternal. And every soul is active. We can see, a dead body does not move. Why? Because the soul is not there. But the living body is moving. The soul is acting. So the soul acts differently when he's inside different bodies. But he's always active. The soul is not passive. Activity is with the soul. Na hanyate hanyamane sharire. He does not die even after the annihilation of the body. Thus, the living entity transmigrates from one body to another and performs various activities. In each body, the living entity performs so many acts. Sometimes he becomes a great hero, just like Hiranyakashipu and Kants, or in the modern age, Napoleon or Hitler. The activities of such men are certainly very great. But as soon as their bodies are finished, everything else is finished. Then they remain in name only. Therefore, a living entity may be called Bhrakshava. He may have a great reputation for various types of activities. So, Prabhupada is helping us understand that, they have been great personalities, they've become famous, but we have to leave the body at one time. And then where does the soul go? Into another body? And we don't know which body that soul has gone into. So nonetheless, he has a friend whom he does not know. Materialistic persons do not understand that God is present as the supersoul who is situated within the heart of every living entity. So our best friend, Krishna, is the Paramatma in our heart. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that he is the supersoul in the living entity. He is the witness. He's the overseer. He's the permitter. So although the Paramatma sits beside the Jivatma as a friend, the Jivatma or living entity does not know it. We are completely oblivious that Krishna is sitting next to us. We have forgotten him. We have turned our face away from him. So we are not able to see him. Consequently, he is described as Avigyata Sakha, meaning one who has an unknown friend. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, text 29, Suhridam Sarva Bhutanam, that he's the best friend of all living entities. The Paramatma is there in everyone's heart. The soul is there and the super soul, Jivatma, Paramatma. So whichever body we take, whichever body the Atma goes into, the Paramatma accompanies him. The word avigyata chestita is also significant because a living entity works hard under the direction of the Paramatma and is carried away by the laws of nature. Nonetheless, he thinks himself independent of God and independent of the stringent laws of material nature. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text 45, Achedyo yam adhayo yam akledyo shosya evacha nitya sarva gata sthanur achalo yam sanatana. This individual soul is unbreakable and insoluble, and can be neither burned nor dried. He is everlasting, all pervading, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same. The soul, we are the souls. Nobody can break the soul. It's not that somebody took a knife and cut us out like a carved us out of the super soul. No, it's unbreakable. We are eternally the same, never changes. Soul never changes. Everlasting, never are we going to die. The body dies, the body is burned or buried, or different things are done to the body, but the soul remains eternally. All pervading, the souls are everywhere. The living entities, they're everywhere, in the air, in the water, on land, everywhere. Unchangeable, immovable. Immovable. How can we explain immovable? The soul is immovable. Well, we can't change it. There's no way that we can change the soul. Sure, the soul goes from one body to another. The soul is always the soul, always has an eternal relationship with Krishna. Doesn't mean that because he's going from one body to another, that he has changed. No, the body has changed only. Okay. So the living entity is Sanatan, eternal, because he cannot be killed by any weapon, burnt into ashes by fire, soaked or moistened by water, nor dried up by air. He is considered to be immune to material reactions. Although he is changing bodies, he is not affected by the material conditions. He is placed under the material conditions, and he acts according to the directions of his friend, the super soul. So, we are the soul. We cannot be killed. We can't be burnt, dried, nothing. But yet, we think that all these things are happening to us. Why? Because we think we are the body. We have forgotten that we are not the body, but we are the soul. So, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 15.15, Sarvasya chaham hridhi sanivishto matasmitir jnanam apohanam cha. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So Krishna says this in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, text 15, that he's saying, I am seated in everyone's heart. So the Paramatma, he's there with us. The Atma is there. Next to the Atma is the Paramatma. The Krishna is there in our heart. And Krishna is saying from him comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. Sometimes we are so proud, oh, I know this, oh, I can remember this. But it's coming from Krishna. He's giving us this ability and forgetfulness. Krishna always also gives us the ability to forget, that we don't remember at all what we did in the past life. What to say about past life? 10 years before also we wouldn't know. We forget. Thus the Lord as Paramatma is situated in everyone's heart, and he gives directions to the living entity to act in whatever way the living entity desires. So as they say, no man proposes, God disposes. Based on our desire, Krishna, who is in our heart, facilitates the fulfillment of our desire by the agency of this material energy. Whatever desire we have, Krishna makes the arrangement to fulfill that desire. We think we are doing, but only thing what we are doing is desiring. In this life and in his previous lives, the living entity does not know that the Lord is giving him a chance to fulfill all kinds of desires. No one can fulfill any desire without the sanction of the Lord. All the facilities given by the Lord are unknown to the conditioned soul. Yeah, we don't understand how Krishna is fulfilling our desires. We think we are doing it. There are demigods who are in charge of blinking of our eyes, talking, moving our hand. Every action of the body is under the control of a particular demigod. That's why there are 33 crore demigods. The Paramatma in our heart, he understands our desire. He gives the signal to the demigod, and then the demigod helps us to perform that action. So everything is happening under Krishna's supervision, by his sanction. But the desire is ours. And so that's the reason the responsibility of the action is ours. Krishna is simply facilitating it. He's allowing us to fulfill our desire. So when we do bad things, we get bad reaction, we are responsible for it. Okay. So Veshamana Sharanam.
So Anveshamanaha Sharanam
Vabrama Prithvim Prabhu.
Paprama Prithvim Prabhu
Nanu Rupam Yada Vindat.
Nanu Rupam Yada Vindad
Abhutsa Vimana Iva.
Abhutsa Vimana Iva.
King Purañjana began to search for a suitable place to live, and thus he traveled all over the world. Even after a great deal of traveling, he could not find a place just to his liking. Finally, he became morose and disappointed. The travelings of Purañjana are similar to the travelings of the modern hippies. Generally, hippies are sons of great fathers and great families. It is not that they are always poor, but some way or another, they abandon the shelter of their rich fathers and travel all over the world. As stated in this verse, the living entity wants to become a Prabhu or master. The word Prabhu means master. But actually, the living entity is not a master, he's the eternal servant of God. When the living entity abandons the shelter of God Krishna and tries to become a Prabhu independently, he travels all over the creation. When we are not able to understand our real position, then we are here in the material world. Because we are not able to understand that we have a relationship with Krishna, a very loving relationship, that we are not independent of Krishna. When we want to become independent, that's how we come inside this material body. There are 8,400,000 species of life and millions and trillions of planets within the creation. The living entity wanders throughout these various types of bodies and throughout different planets, and thus he is like King Purañjana, who traveled all over the world looking for a suitable place to live. So we are giving up one body, taking up another, one body, taking up another. And it's not that there's only this Earth planet. There's so many gazillions of planets. We don't know which planet we are going to go into after we give up this body, which kind of body we will get. So this is the travels. Shri Narottam Das Thakur has sung Karmakand Gyan Kanda Kevala Visherabha, the path of Karmakand fruitive activities, and the path of Gyan Kand speculation are just like strong pots of poison. Amrita Baliya Yeva Khaya, Nana Yoni Sadafiri. A person who mistakes this poison to be nectar and drinks it travels in different species of life. So, pots of poison. Following the path of karma and gyan. Why? Because it's just going to keep us here in the material world. It's not going to help us get out of the material world. It's not going to give us the real liberation. Kadarya bhakshana kare, and according to his body, he eats all types of abominable things. For instance, when the living entity is in the body of a hog, he eats stool. When the living entity is in the body of a crow, he eats all kinds of refuse, even pus and mucus, and enjoys it. Thus, Narottam Das Thakur points out that the living entity travels in different types of bodies and eats all kinds of abominable things. When he does not become ultimately happy, he becomes morose or takes to the way of hippies. So we have done that. We have been in bodies of dogs and hogs and crows, and we have eaten all this kind of abominable things. But we forget. Krishna gives us this ability to forget. Thus, in this verse, it is said, Na anurupam, that the king could never find a place suitable for his purposes. This is because in any form of life and on any planet in the material world, a living entity cannot be happy because everything in the material world is unsuitable for the spirit soul. As stated in this verse, the living entity independently wants to become a Prabhu. But as soon as he gives up this idea and becomes a servant of God, Krishna, his happiness immediately begins. So we are giving up one body to another, saying, oh, I didn't enjoy in this body, let me get another body, I'll enjoy more. We try to enjoy, we still get frustrated, then we say, no, I want another body, no, I want another body. And like this, we are wandering everywhere. Let me go and see this planet. Maybe that planet is better. Maybe this body is better. But our real happiness is when we can understand our real position, our eternal relationship with Krishna. When we understand, I am eternal servant of Krishna. Jivera Swarupai Krishna Nityadas, Lord Chaitanya says. And then happiness immediately begins because it's eternal position. So we may say, no, 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 I don't want to be servant of Krishna. No, I don't want to be servant. But it's not that I don't want to be, it's our eternal position. And it's not that it's, in the material world, position of servant is not a very nice situation. Servants are sometimes, exploited and all that. So we said, no, 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 I'm not servant. I'm God, I'm controller. We want to be like that. Because we don't understand that we have this very sweet relationship with Krishna. When we love someone, we serve them, we do things for them. We get happy when we are doing things for someone we love. That is the relationship between Krishna and the living entity. And Krishna also serves the living entity. He becomes the chariot driver of Arjuna. He becomes the sari of Draupadi. He supplies her unlimited sari. So it's a loving relationship. Therefore, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings, Miche Maya Ravashe, Yacha Beshe, Kachab Abu Dubu Bhai. My dear living entity, why are you being carried away by the waves of Maya? As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 18.61, Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Hrideshe Arjunatishthati Brahmayan Sarva Bhutani Yantra Rudhani Mayaya. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. So Krishna is there in our heart, sitting right next to us. And he's fulfilling our desire. But he wants us to come back. And that's the reason he comes time and time again to give us the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. He sends his devotees, he sends his incarnations. The living entity is carried in the machine of the body through so many species of life on so many planets. Therefore, Bhaktivinoda Thakur asks the living entity why he is being carried away in these bodily machines to be placed in so many different circumstances. He advises that one can surmount the waves of Maya by surrendering unto Krishna. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, a great acharya in our line, is written many wonderful songs, which is there in the Vaishnav songbook. And he's saying, he's advising us, he's giving us this good instruction that surrender to Krishna. Krishna also is saying in Bhagavad Gita, surrender to me. So the devotee is also saying the same thing, surrender to Krishna and be happy. Jiva Krishna Das E Vishwas Karleta Ar Dukhanai. As soon as we confront Krishna, Krishna advises Sarva Dharman Parityagya Mam Ekam Sharanam Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyo Moksheshyami Shacha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reaction. Do not fear. Bhagavad Gita 18.66. So Krishna is saying, just surrender unto me. We surrender unto so many people, so many things, but our real surrender is meant for Krishna. Our real shelter is Krishna. Thus, we are immediately relieved from traveling from one body to another and from one planet to another. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu says, Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavan Jiva. Caitanya Caritamita Madhya Leela 19:151. If, while traveling, a living entity becomes fortunate enough to become blessed by the association of devotees and to come to Krishna consciousness, his real life actually begins. This Krishna consciousness movement is giving all wandering living entities a chance to take to the shelter of Krishna and thus become happy. So Lord Chaitanya is saying, we are wandering one body to another, one planet to another, one universe to another. But when we get the association of the devotee, by the mercy of Guru, by the mercy of Krishna, we get this devotional service. Then one becomes fortunate. In these words, the word Viman, Eva are very significant. In this material world, even the great King of heaven is also full of anxiety. If even Lord Brahma is full of anxiety, what of these ordinary living entities who are working within this planet? Bhagavad Gita 8.16 confirms, Brahma Bhuvanal Loka Punar Avartino Arjuna. So even Lord Brahma is anxious. We think only we are anxiety, we are getting panic attacks, or we are having this anxiety. But even Lord Brahma is anxiety. Krishna is saying that. And Lord Brahma is the most powerful person in this universe. He is the most intelligent, most powerful, most qualified, most opulent. He's creating these different planets. He's giving shapes to the living entities. And even he has to die one day. He has his own stress. We say, I'm so stressed. Maybe if I change my position, I will not be stressed. But here we are hearing, even if we become Lord Brahma, we will still have our own stress, our own anxiety. From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery wherein repeated birth and death take place. In the material world, a living entity is never satisfied. Even in the position of Brahma or in the position of Indra or Chandra, one is full of anxiety simply because he has accepted this material world as a place of happiness. So why we get anxious? Because we are not able to accept that this place is Dukhalayam Ashaswatam, is a temporary place of misery, that this is not our real home. We need to get out of here. We are not able to understand this. We are not able to accept it. And therefore, we continue from one body to another. So this is not to put kind of a depression to anyone, but just trying to understand the real nature of the material world. Not that we start, that it's the end of the world. No. But to understand that, what activities I should do, how should I use my free will? This knowledge is given to us so that we can make the correct choices. Is that okay? And then the correct choice, engage in devotional service. Hear Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And get out of this material world and go back home to the spiritual sky, to Golok Vrindavan, and be eternally happy. Yeah. Any questions, comments?
All good.
Okay. So thank you so much for listening in and joining in. Shla Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.